everybody, my name is
H3TR.
and welcome to
Nomifactory.
Hello everyone. I've had some major issues with the audio this time around, so I hope the crappy voiceovers aren't too bad. Anyway, I'm just gotta get into it right away. Here you go. Okay, the first act of this episode is that I made an auto crafting setup, and that is a feature from Applied Energistics, and it enables you to craft things on demand, and it also can do that recursively, and I will explain that in just a second. But first I'm just gonna explain what all of this is. So on the left we have the molecular assemblers around an interface, and the molecular assemblers, they're basically like crafting tables for auto crafting, so they can make crafting table recipes. So the most basic things you can just automate with that, and then the rest, the ME interface in the middle of them, that is used to interact with the molecular assemblers, so you can actually craft things. You can put crafting patterns in them, and then you can use these crafting patterns to tell the molecular assemblers like, hey, I want a wooden hoe, and then it will give it to the molecular assembler, and then it will read that, and then, oh, okay, I'm gonna make a wooden hoe. And on the right we have a crafting CPU, which is basically the thing that processes the crafting as well as stores the item during the crafting process. And what's so handy about this is that you can, for example, go into the system and say you want to craft a door. For a door you need wood planks, for wood planks you need a log. Say you have a bunch of logs stored but don't want to do all the micro crafting, you can just say, oh, I want a door, and then it will automatically first look at the recipe for wood planks, which is obviously required for the door, and then it will see, oh, you can make it from logs, then it will process that, okay, now I have wood, and then it will make the door from the wood after that. You can also automate basically all machine processes with it, but I haven't done that in right this moment because that is a lot more complex. But yeah, crafting patterns, I was gonna explain that as well. You can set recipes in there as well as the expected output, and when you put them in one of the interfaces, like around the molecular assemblers or around the other machines that we want to automate, then it will automatically insert the items for the crafting stuff, and then it will do what it has to do. But yeah, I don't think I have to explain why this is so extremely handy. Say if we automate almost all processes that we have to do, we barely have to do any micro crafting. We don't have to, if we parallelize the recipes at least, we don't have to wait a really long time for things to finish and stuff like that, so that's incredibly useful. So yeah, this is a very rudimentary setup, but we will be expanding on this during the series, making a bigger molecular assembler array or a bigger crafting CPU with better storage, more co-crafting stuff. So yeah, we will be seeing a lot of auto crafting automation this episode. first other machines I added auto crafting to are the assembling machine and the inscribers. The assembling machine has many uses, as you know, but I have also added some standard things. For example, I added polyethylene as a fluid because unfortunately you cannot specify fluids in auto crafting, so you will have to set up a separate assembling machine for every type of fluid you want to use. But fortunately we don't really need that many different types of fluids, and the rest we can still do in the assembly machine that we still have on the manual machine wall. But yeah, what this does is it has a default programmed circuit thingy for selecting the recipes of 8, which allows it to craft machine casings. Along with the polyethylene, it can then, from those machine cases, make machine hulls. And with these hulls, we will be able to make machines and also add, for example, the ME interface, which we're gonna use quite a lot this episode, to our auto crafting scheme, because we can craft all of the materials required for it using most of our auto crafting stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely planning to automate that because obviously if we're gonna use it a lot, it's a lot better to just add all the auto crafting stuff rather than micro crafting, especially because this one uses quite a lot of recipes that are micro crafted. Then the next thing I made is I have a setup here of inscribers, advanced inscribers to be precise, and they actually with this setup I'm able to craft all different types of applied energistics processors, so the calculation processor, engineering processor, etc. These are just handy because making them manually is really slow. So yeah, it's great that we have this little setup. We don't have to specify that much. It only has, I believe it's 3 crafting patterns. So yeah, this is really efficient. So what I'm gonna do next is make some contraption for enabling auto crafting using the quack-quack-quack machines, and I'm gonna try to put like some kind of parallelization system in place so it doesn't take as long. What does this mean? It's not as simple as just putting one machine and putting it in and taking it out. It's gonna be a little more complex, but it's gonna pay off because we're gonna save a lot of time with that. Alright, so what we have here is I have made the same thing you just saw twice. I didn't show it, but I did. One is for the bending machine, which is the one on the right, and the other one is for wire mills. I'm going to make a bunch more for the lathe probably, and some other machines as well maybe, but the lathe, bending machine and wire mill are the most important machines to parallelize. Yeah, how this works is you have the interface. So the interface requests a recipe, so the items get put into, you can faintly see it, but there's like a drawer controller underneath the drawers you see and behind the interface. And so the items get put into the drawers, and behind the drawers there are some drawer slave controller thingies, and then we have conveyors going into the machines so they can take out of the drawers at the same time. And then we have item conduits taking the output and putting it right back into the interface. Yeah, I've done that twice. It's about the same. I currently use an 8 amp power energy converter thing because I might expand this upwards to have like 8 machines instead of 4. But for this moment, this is more than enough, as you will see. But yeah, so I have added some capacity for possible future upgrades. Alright, so let's talk about this thing I just made. And first off, I'm sorry for this incredibly awkward image that I use. I really couldn't get any better shots out of the video, so I just took the best one I had and distorted it to a recognizable degree. So yeah, this thing is actually made for producing polyvinyl chloride, which it can be done with ethylene as well. So we just popped it right onto the polyethylene production, as you can see, like on the left bottom. And then we further process some of the PVC into plates, into sheets, and these sheets are used to make plastic circuit boards. So yeah, what we see here is just the ethylene gets both put into the polyethylene as well as the vinyl chloride setup, which adds chlorine put into the aluminum barrel right like a little bit above it. Along with the ethylene, turns it into vinyl chloride, and that gets turned into hydrochloric acid, which will be used later, as well as vinyl chloride, of course, and that gets turned into another chemical reactor which polymerizes it, turns it into PVC, and then it gets put into the barrel right next to the chemical reactor, and then gets part of it gets drained into the fluid solidifier, which makes sheets out of it, and these can be used for various things in auto crafting. I think cable wrapping will be using it as well in higher tiers, but also for these circuit boards, which we will use later. And then we are importing iron that gets turned into crushed, into dust, iron dust, that gets reacted with the hydrochloric acid, which we made from the vinyl chloride production thing, and that turns into ferric chloride. It's also called iron 3 chloride. I think it's iron 3 chloride in this game. And then we also have copper sheets, which get just made from copper. 2 bending machines, one for plates, one for foil. It's foil, not sheets. And then we have 2 more chemical reactors, both for the circuit boards. So first you have sulfuric acid, which also comes from the same production line as the one used for making ethylene. And then we have copper foil, and of course the PVC sheets that gets turned into plastic circuit boards. And then we have the ferric chloride with the plastic circuit boards, and even more copper that gets turned to, yes, very confusing, again, plastic circuit boards. They're different things. The first plastic circuit boards is just the board, and the second plastic circuit board is the actual thing used in circuit crafting. So I'm just gonna call the actual circuit boards used in crafting PCBs. Yeah, that's even more confusing because mostly PVC stand. Made a little mistake there. It's PCBs, not PVCs, to make it even more confusing for you. Yeah. For printed circuit board, but now it's plastic circuit. Yeah, you know what? This is just a clustered mess. It's very, very ugly. It's probably not as efficient as it could be, but it works, so I'm not gonna complain. And as you can see, after waiting a bit, we have gotten ourselves about 27 PCBs out of just, I think, not too much chlorine, so that's really good. That's pretty nice yield. Quick update, I also set up a little auto crafting system for the lathes as well. Okay, I have built a little contraption here that will passively make us a bunch of things, including red alloy, chronicle, steel, pulsating iron, invar, and wrought iron, which we will all need in varying amounts. So I've just got a few level emitters here and some machine controllers, so that we can say, oh, if we have 256 invar 4 stacks, it will stop, because that's enough. Obviously it's a bit more because the transportation system is a bit slow. I've also decided to use a different item conjugate network here, because I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that this one gets overloaded. I don't know if that's a thing, but just to be sure, I did that. Because I still had some controller slaves left anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Put it right on top and we got another conjugate network, and this will also just help us doing stuff. I was able to hook this up to a 4 amp LV energy converter, because none of these recipes use more energy than this thing can provide, even when they're all running at the same time, which is, well, that's great, because then we don't have to get an 8 amp or something higher. Maybe we will have to get that later, because I'm also planning to add different things as well, maybe something like bronze and brass perhaps. Right, so that's that. I don't really think there's much else to say about all of this. Oh yes, I've also added a little fluid storage bus to our oxygen production, so that we can just supply to this arc furnace for making wrought iron. Alright, I have not put a machine controller on this one because, well, I originally had one, but I set it to 32 stacks, but obviously the stack limit of one of these drawers is 32 stacks, so that was kind of useless. So I just opted to don't use one instead. Same for the wrought iron stuff. So yeah, I put it on top of our thing here because I want to keep expanding this one outwards, but I still want to have access to this drawer cluster here, so that we don't have to get another drawer, and because this uses a lot of these items, it will be really difficult to control it with these limited item filters. So I just did this. I think it works well. This platform here, it doesn't really look that good, but I just put it there because otherwise it would look kind of weird with these machines just floating around. And I have also found a way to get chlorine properly. Alright, so to do that we will need a fluid rig. This is not extremely expensive, and it's pretty neat. So I think that we might actually make it this episode or next one. And you might be wondering why a fluid rig. Isn't that for oil? Yes, that's mostly for oil. However, there is also, other than oil, there is also another way to actually use it, and that is when you are in an ocean biome. There might be a chance that there is a saltwater deposit, and with salt water we can electrolyze that to get sodium hydroxide as well as chlorine and hydrogen, which is pretty neat because we will need all of these materials, mostly chlorine of course, but this one as well. We can use it for various things. I'm not quite sure what we're going to, oh yes, here. Epoxy, for example, is something very important. Epichlorohydrin is also pretty important. And there's also a bunch of other things as well, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, that's mostly what you can use it for. But yeah, we're mostly interested in the chlorine and hydrogen, of course. And my idea to actually make this thing work is just put a fluid rig somewhere here. Then we chunk load this area with this here. We can claim chunks and we can chunk load them so that the rig will keep running. We have an ender chest as well as an ender fluid tank. The ender chest is used to transport diamonds from our base to the fluid rig where we are going to set up a remote energy source. Let's set this up. Okay, so this is working and we are producing salt water.
Just like the alloy smelters, I think it's a good idea to automate aluminium and energetic alloy with the blast furnaces.
So off camera I upgraded our base a little bit. I've made our surface area a little bit bigger, and as you can see I've also changed the cobblestone. It's still cobblestone, but with the chisel mod you can choose a few different textures, and I think these ones look a lot better than the stock cobblestone textures. Yeah, I've also upgraded the drawer textures. I'm using marble and basalt. It's from frame drawers and they look pretty good. And then further I've also done some smelting, just like with the third blast furnace that we made, which is not used for anything, at least not passive. So I just put some neodymium in there, and also a few vibrant alloy stuff, just a few random things that could be smelted that we still had in our applied energistic system. So I just put it in the blast furnace. But yeah, I've done a pretty good job, I believe. I'm pretty happy with the result, and I'm also planning to upgrade some other things as well. For example, the terminals that we have for AE. Probably gonna make like a little bit of a little box around it to make it a little bit better. Oh yeah, before, almost forgot, I also upgraded the molecular assembler array by a tiny bit. So yeah, it's a bit bigger, and we have more capacity for recipes and all that. And if you were wondering what the energy converter was just a few seconds ago, we're gonna make an array of centrifuges with gas collectors so that we have a proper supply of nitrogen. And you might know that nitrogen is an inert gas, and that can be used in the blast furnace to speed up smelting processes. So I think it reduces most things by like a fifth or a third, I'm not sure. But every bit helps, so it doesn't really hurt to set this up because it uses barely any energy, and we get a really decent supply of it. Besides, we will also use it in stuff like ammonia and some other chemicals as well in the future. So it's a good idea to have a decent supply set up as soon as we can. Alright, I fast forwarded a bit. And as you can see, our nitrogen production system is now finished. We have two sides, and both sides have 7 centrifuges and 1 gas collector. And then on top of the entire system we have just a aluminum drum that is just a buffer for excess air, which we have. I'm not sure in what situation we would run out of air, but it's nice to have it anyways. Then we have a super tank and a trash can, because the centrifuges produce both nitrogen as well as oxygen. And obviously we don't need the oxygen for anything because we already have an oxygen line, so we're just trashing it. In this picture I haven't powered it, but I have let it run for about, well, I'm not sure how long, but not very long, and the super tank was filled. So it's probably about 15-20 minutes maybe to fill the entire super tank. We'll probably not run out of nitrogen that fast. Okay, so the next thing I want to automate is getting these grains of infinity. And there's multiple ways of doing this, using fire, water, and flint and steel. But I'm not gonna use any of these because I have a better way, at least temporarily. Fire water is a lot better, but we cannot get that. It's very it's not something we can make quite yet. So what I was going to use is this blazing pyrotheum, which sets the bedrock on fire. And then, since we still have our vacuum thing here, this vacuum chest here, we can pull the, like when the infinity grains spawn, this one will just suck it up, and then we can pull it through an ender chest of some sorts and get it at our base. And I'm gonna put it just beneath our base because I have chunk loaded this. As you can see, this whole area is chunk loaded now. So I'm just gonna put it somewhere at the bedrock layer in this area, and then I'm just gonna get that. Before we can actually do that, we still have to make blazing pyrotheum, and it's not very difficult. We just need some blaze powder. Okay, there we go. This is automated. I hope this works good enough. I'm not quite sure, but I think it should be fine. So, as you can see, this blazing pyrotheum is putting the bedrock on fire, and when the fire goes out, it has a chance to drop these, grains of infinity. And these netherracks are here. I'm not sure why they do it, but this is the only way to get, as far as I know at least, to get the fire to actually get on the bedrock. Otherwise it will always go on top of the, like, this is the pyrotheum and I put this here, then it will always go on top and never next to it, which is obviously not what we want, because then it can't set the bedrock on fire. And since we don't have, like in vanilla, an irregular pattern of bedrock, that's not really an option. So yeah, we have to do it like this, but I think this is good enough. It's not fast, but could be very much worse. Besides, we don't need them that much yet, so it's fine for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like. If not, you can dislike. And if you want to keep up with this series, be sure to subscribe. Oh, and if you know anyone who would like this video, there's nothing stopping you from sharing it. But yeah, that's it. See ya.